I want to tell you something that might sound impossible, but I promise you, it's the truest thing I've ever discovered. You are one single thought away from ending years of struggle, not months from now. Not after you read 10 more books or take 5 more courses. Right now, this very moment. One shift in your thinking can dissolve patterns that have held you captive for decades. I know you might be thinking, that can't be true. You don't understand my situation. You don't know what I've been through. And you're right, I don't know your specific story. But I know the law that governs all stories, including yours. And that law doesn't care about your past, your mistakes, your failures, or how many times you've tried and fallen. It only responds to what you're thinking and feeling right now. Listen closely. Your subconscious mind, this infinite intelligence within you, doesn't argue with you. It doesn't judge whether your thoughts are good or bad, true or false, helpful or destructive. It simply accepts what you impress upon it and brings it into your experience. This is why two people can live in the same city, work the same job, have the same resources, and one thrives while the other barely survives. The difference isn't in their circumstances. It's in the habitual thoughts they've been thinking, often without even realizing it. For years, you may have been affirming your limitations. I always struggle with money. Relationships never work out for me. I'm just not lucky. Success is for other people. These aren't casual observations. They're commands to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious, like the most loyal servant, says yes, master, and creates experiences that match these beliefs perfectly. But here's the magnificent truth that changes everything. The same power that has been working against you can work for you. The same subconscious mind that has been faithfully creating struggle can just as faithfully create success, abundance, love, and peace. It doesn't require more effort. It requires a different thought. One shift. One new assumption about who you are and what's possible for you. I've watched this transformation happen countless times. People who were stuck for years, suddenly free. Not because their circumstances changed first, but because they changed their thinking, and then their circumstances had no choice but to follow. This is the law. This is how your mind works. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to use it. You're not here by accident. Something in you knows there's another way to live. Something in you is ready for that shift. So let go of everything you think you know about why life has been hard. Let go of your justifications and your evidence for limitation. For the next hour, just listen with an open heart. Because I'm going to show you the mechanism by which your thoughts become your reality, and more importantly, how to redirect that mechanism toward everything you've ever wanted. Your struggle isn't a sign that you're broken, or that life is against you. Your struggle is simply the result of unconscious thinking patterns that you inherited, absorbed, and repeated until they became automatic. The beautiful news is this: what was learned can be unlearned. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. And it starts with understanding one fundamental truth about the nature of your mind. Your conscious mind is the captain. Your subconscious mind is the ship. For too long, you've had a captain who didn't know how to steer, who inherited faulty maps, who believed in storms that didn't exist. But today, you take command. Today, you learn to navigate. Today, everything changes because you're finally understanding the power you've always had but never knew how to use. Are you ready? Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. Once you understand how this works, your entire life becomes a canvas, and your thoughts become the brush. Let me show you what I mean. Think about the last time you worried obsessively about something. Maybe you worried about money, about what someone thought of you, about your health, about your future. When you worry, what are you doing? You're vividly imagining the worst possible outcome. You're feeling the emotions of disaster before anything has even happened. You're rehearsing failure in your mind. And here's what most people don't realize. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you worry, you are literally impressing your subconscious with images of lack, rejection, illness, or failure. And your faithful subconscious goes to work making those images real. It affects your body chemistry, your energy levels, your decisions, the opportunities you notice or ignore, the confidence you project or lack. Worry is negative goal setting. It's using your imagination against yourself. But imagination is neutral. It's a tool. And every tool can be used to build or to destroy. The same imagination that creates anxiety can create miracles. The same mental imagery that produces fear can produce faith. It's the same mechanism. You're already using it every day. The only question is, are you using it consciously or unconsciously? Are you creating your life or just reacting to it? I remember speaking with a woman years ago who came to me in desperation. She had been struggling financially for over a decade. No matter what she did, no matter how hard she worked, she barely made ends meet. She told me, "Dr. Murphy, I've tried everything. I've worked 3 jobs. I've budgeted down to the penny. Nothing works. I think I'm just cursed when it comes to money." I asked her a simple question. "When you think about money, what do you feel?" She paused, and then tears filled her eyes. "I feel afraid. I feel like there's never enough. I feel like I'm always one emergency away from disaster." I said, "Now I understand why you struggle. You're not cursed. You're creative. You're powerfully creative. You've been creating poverty with the same imagination that could create wealth." She looked confused, almost offended. "I don't want to be poor. Why would I create that?" I explained, "You don't want it consciously, but subconsciously, you expect it. Expectation is a powerful creative force. You expect lack, you expect struggle, you feel it in your body, you see it in your mind, and so your subconscious delivers it faithfully. Not because you're bad, but because that's its job. It manifests what you consistently feel and believe." Then I taught her something that changed her life. I said, "Starting tonight, before you fall asleep, I want you to imagine something different. Don't think about your bills. Don't rehearse your fears. Instead, imagine yourself looking at your bank account and feeling relief, feeling abundance, feeling secure. Don't worry about how it could happen. Just feel what it would feel like if money flowed to you easily." She was skeptical, but desperate enough to try. Every night, she practiced this. She imagined checking her account and seeing more than enough. She imagined paying bills with ease. She imagined feeling confident and secure. She didn't try to force it or make it happen. She just consistently impressed her subconscious mind with the feeling of financial security instead of financial fear. Within 3 months, everything shifted. She received an unexpected promotion. An old debt she'd written off was repaid. She discovered skills she didn't know were valuable and started a side business that took off. None of this was luck, it was law. She changed her inner conversation, and her outer world had to change to match it. This is what I mean by one shift. She didn't change her circumstances first. She changed her thinking, her feeling, her mental imagery. And then, as night follows day, her circumstances transformed. You see, most people have it backwards. They say, "I'll be happy when I have money. I'll be confident when I achieve success. I'll be loving when I find the right person." They're waiting for the outside world to change so they can change on the inside. But that's not how the law works. The inside always creates the outside. Your state of consciousness creates your state of experience. If you walk around feeling poor, thinking poor, imagining poverty, you will be poor no matter how many hours you work. If you walk around feeling rejected, expecting rejection, imagining loneliness, you will be lonely no matter how many people you meet. Your outer world is a mirror. It reflects back to you what you're broadcasting from within. But the moment you change the broadcast, the reflection changes. It has to. That's the law. And the magnificent thing is, you don't need anyone's permission to change your thoughts. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need a degree or a credential or a certain amount of money in the bank. You need one thing: the willingness to think differently than you've been thinking. This isn't positive thinking in the shallow sense. I'm not asking you to paste a fake smile on your face and pretend everything is fine. I'm talking about something much deeper. I'm talking about changing your fundamental assumptions about yourself and your life. I'm talking about impressing new beliefs into your subconscious mind through feeling, through imagination, through repetition. Your subconscious mind is like soil. It doesn't care what you plant. You can plant tomatoes or poison ivy, and it will grow either one with equal enthusiasm. For years, you've been planting seeds of limitation, fear, and struggle. Often, you inherited these seeds from your parents, your culture, your past experiences. You didn't consciously choose them. But now you're aware. Now you can choose differently. What would you plant if you knew it would definitely grow? What would you think about yourself if you knew those thoughts would become your reality? What would you feel if you truly believed that your subconscious mind is right now organizing circumstances, events, and opportunities to match your dominant mental state. This is not fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is the most practical, scientific principle in existence. Your thoughts are causes. Your circumstances are effects. Change the cause, and the effect must change. It's not a matter of if, but when. And often, it happens faster than you could imagine. I've seen people heal their bodies by changing their thoughts. I've seen people attract love after years of loneliness by changing their self-concept. I've seen people go from bankruptcy to abundance by changing their relationship with money in their minds first. The outer world is not the problem. It never was. The problem was always the pattern of thinking that created the outer world. And here's something that will free you completely. You don't have to figure out how your good will come. That's not your job. Your job is to claim it in consciousness. Your job is to feel it as already done. Your job is to think from the end result, not about the end result. When you do this, your subconscious mind, which is connected to infinite intelligence, arranges the means. It opens doors you didn't know existed. It brings people, resources, ideas, and opportunities that you could never manufacture through effort alone. This is why struggle eventually fails. Struggle comes from the conscious mind trying to force results without enlisting the subconscious. It's like trying to sail a ship by pushing it with your hands instead of raising the sail and letting the wind carry you. Effort has its place, yes, but directed effort guided by the right consciousness is effortless compared to the exhausting grind of trying to make things happen through force alone. Think about your own life. When have things worked out beautifully? I bet it was when you were in a good state, when you felt confident, when you expected things to go well. And when have things fallen apart? Probably when you were anxious, fearful, expecting the worst. Same you, different state of consciousness, different results. So the question isn't whether this works. The question is, are you willing to apply it? Are you willing to stop defending your limitations and start claiming your possibilities? Are you willing to feel differently even before circumstances change? Because that's the shift. That's the one thought that ends years of struggle. It's the thought that says, I am not a victim of my past or my circumstances. I am a creator. My mind is powerful. My thoughts matter. And starting now, I choose to think in harmony with what I want, not in harmony with what I've had. When you truly accept this, when you feel the truth of it in your bones, everything begins to move. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your conviction. It responds to the feeling behind your words. And when your feeling changes, when you genuinely begin to assume that you are who you want to be and have what you want to have, the outer world rearranges itself to match. This isn't magic, it's law, the law of mind, the law of assumption, the law of consciousness. Call it what you want, but understand it, respect it, use it. Because it's using you either way. You're either consciously directing your subconscious toward your desires, or you're unconsciously directing it toward your fears. There is no neutral. Your mind is always creating. The only question is what. Now let me take you deeper into how this actually works, because understanding the mechanism gives you confidence, and confidence accelerates results. Your conscious mind thinks in words, in logic, in reason, but your subconscious mind thinks in feelings and images. This is why affirmations alone often don't work. You can say, I am wealthy, 1,000 times, but if you feel poor, if you see yourself struggling, if your inner state is one of lack, your subconscious will keep producing poverty. The subconscious doesn't argue with you. It doesn't care if what you're impressing upon it is true or false, good or bad. It simply accepts and executes. This is both the danger and the opportunity. Let me give you a practical example. Two people lose their jobs on the same day. One person immediately feels devastated. They tell themselves, I'll never find another job. The market is terrible. I'm too old, too inexperienced, too whatever. They see themselves failing at interviews. They feel the anxiety, the fear, the unworthiness. What happens? Their subconscious mind, being the faithful servant it is, begins to arrange circumstances that match these feelings. They show up to interviews radiating desperation. They miss opportunities because they're not mentally alert to see them. They create the very reality they feared. The second person, however, understands this law. They feel the initial disappointment, yes, but they don't let it become their dominant mental state. They begin to imagine themselves in an even better position. They feel grateful for the new opportunity coming their way. They see themselves succeeding, being valued, earning more than before. They fall asleep each night with the feeling of already having secured something wonderful. What happens? Their subconscious mind goes to work. They notice a connection they hadn't thought of. They have an inspired idea. They radiate confidence in meetings. Doors open. Same external circumstance. Completely different internal response. Completely different outcome. This is not positive thinking in the shallow sense. This is scientific use of your mind. Your feelings are the language of creation. Whatever you feel deeply and consistently, you must experience in your outer world. So the question becomes, what are you feeling most of the time? Not what are you saying, but what are you feeling? Because your life right now is the perfect mirror of your habitual feeling states. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, you must change what's being reflected, which is your inner world. Your feeling is the secret, not your words, not your vision board, not the affirmations you repeat mechanically while your heart feels the opposite, your feeling. So many people come to me and say, I've been affirming for weeks, months even, and nothing has changed. And when I ask them, how do you feel when you affirm? They go quiet, because they know they've been saying one thing while feeling another. They've been declaring abundance while feeling lack, proclaiming health while feeling sick, affirming love while feeling unworthy. This is not manifestation. This is contradiction. And the subconscious mind does not respond to contradiction. It responds to conviction, to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let me give you a practical example that changed everything for one of my students. She wanted to manifest a new home. She had the pictures, she had the affirmations, she did the visualizations every morning, but every time she looked at her current apartment, she felt disappointment. Every time she checked her bank account, she felt fear. Every time she thought about moving, she felt impossibility. Her words said yes, but her feeling said no, and the feeling always wins. So we worked together on something simple but profound. Instead of trying to feel differently about her current situation, we changed what she was focusing on. Every morning, before she opened her eyes, she would lie in bed and feel the feeling of contentment. Not the feeling of having the new house, but the feeling of being someone who always ends up exactly where she belongs. She stopped resisting her current apartment and started appreciating it. She thanked it for sheltering her. She felt grateful for the roof over her head. And something remarkable happened. The desperation left her voice. The anxiety left her body. She started feeling abundant right where she was. And within 2 months, an opportunity appeared that seemed impossible. A house she couldn't have afforded became available at a price she could manage, through circumstances that seemed orchestrated by something greater than logic. This is what happens when you stop chasing and start aligning. The universe doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your frequency. It responds to the signal you're broadcasting through your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs about what's possible for you. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too easy. This sounds like wishful thinking. And I understand that resistance. We've been conditioned to believe that everything worth having must be earned through struggle, through sacrifice, through forcing outcomes into existence. But here's what I've observed after years of studying this principle. The people who struggle the most aren't the ones working hardest on their external circumstances. They're the ones working hardest against their own nature. They're swimming upstream, convinced that the current is the problem, when really, they just need to turn around. Your subconscious mind is always listening. It's always recording. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every feeling you cultivate, it's all being registered as instruction. And your subconscious doesn't argue with you. It doesn't say, "Are you sure about this?" It simply accepts what you give it and begins creating experiences that match. Think of it like this. Your subconscious is the most loyal servant you'll ever have. If you consistently tell it, "I never have enough," it will faithfully create situations where you never have enough. If you tell it, "People always let me down," it will orchestrate circumstances where people let you down. Not because the universe is cruel, but because your inner world is projecting outward. This is why affirmations without feeling are useless. You can stand in front of a mirror and repeat, "I am wealthy" 1,000 times, but if underneath those words you feel poor, if you feel lack, If you feel unworthy, that's the instruction your subconscious receives. The feeling is the language your subconscious understands. The feeling is the creative force. So how do you change the feeling? How do you shift from a frequency of lack to a frequency of abundance when your bank account is showing you something different? When your current reality seems to contradict everything you're trying to believe? You start small. You start with what you can authentically feel right now. You don't leap from despair to absolute certainty overnight. That's not how the subconscious mind works. Instead, you build a bridge of believable thoughts. You create stepping stones that feel real to you right now, in this moment. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you're trying to manifest financial abundance, but your bank account is nearly empty and bills are piling up. If you try to affirm "I am infinitely wealthy" while staring at overdraft notices, your subconscious will reject it immediately. The contradiction is too stark. The emotional gap is too wide. But what if you started with something smaller, something that doesn't trigger that internal resistance? You might begin with, "I am open to new opportunities." That feels possible, doesn't it? Or perhaps, "I have been resourceful before, and I can be resourceful again." Your mind can accept that. It doesn't clash with your current experience. This is what I call building emotional congruence. You're not lying to yourself, you're not pretending circumstances don't exist. You're simply choosing thoughts that feel authentic while also moving you in the direction you want to go. You're selecting beliefs that your subconscious can actually receive and work with. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you're on 88.5 FM and you want to get to 101.3, you don't just leap there instantly. You turn the dial gradually. You pass through all the frequencies in between. Your consciousness works the same way. You must tune yourself progressively toward the frequency of your desire. And here's something beautiful that happens when you do this. Each small shift creates momentum. When you successfully accept one believable thought, the next slightly bigger thought becomes easier to accept. Your subconscious starts to trust the process. It begins to open up to new possibilities. You might start with "I am open to opportunities," and within days, that expands naturally to "I notice opportunities around me." Then perhaps, "I am capable of taking action on these opportunities." Each step feels real. Each step is accepted. And with each acceptance, your subconscious begins to create the corresponding outer reality. This is not about lowering your ultimate vision. Your end goal remains the same. But you're giving yourself permission to arrive there through a path that honors where you actually are right now. You're being honest with yourself while simultaneously lifting yourself higher. This is what Murphy called intelligent faith, faith that doesn't demand you lie to yourself, but invites you to see the fuller picture of what's unfolding. When you say something like, "I am open to recognizing signs of growing prosperity in my life," you're not pretending money is already in your account. You're tuning your awareness to notice the shifts that precede the manifestation. You're training yourself to see the green lights, the synchronicities, the unexpected offers, the ideas that bubble up at 3 in the morning. And here's what happens when you make this shift: you actually start to feel something. That's the key. That's the whole game. Because affirmations only work when they produce a feeling, when they stir something inside you, when they create a subtle emotional resonance that your subconscious can latch onto and begin to work with. If your affirmation leaves you cold, anxious, or doubtful, it doesn't matter how perfectly it's worded. It's not reaching the place where change actually happens. You're speaking to the ceiling, not to your deeper mind. But when you adjust your language to meet yourself where you are, something softens, something opens. You might feel a gentle relief, a quiet sense of possibility, a small but real shift in your emotional state. That's the signal. That's how you know you found an affirmation that's actually working. I remember working with someone who'd been repeating, "I am a confident public speaker," for months. And every time he said it, he felt like a fraud. Because in reality, he could barely get through a presentation without his hands shaking. So we changed it. "I am becoming more comfortable expressing myself in front of others. Each time I speak, I grow a little stronger." Suddenly, his whole body relaxed. He could actually believe it. And more importantly, he could feel it. Within weeks, he started volunteering for smaller speaking opportunities. His nervous system began to rewire. The confidence he'd been desperately claiming started to naturally emerge. That's the difference between affirmations that manipulate and affirmations that truly transform. And here's what nobody tells you about that transformation process: it's not always comfortable. Mark described it to me like this: it felt like waking up from a dream where I'd been running underwater. Suddenly I could breathe, but I had to learn to use my lungs properly again. That's the paradox of genuine change. Your subconscious has been running patterns for years, maybe decades. These patterns have kept you safe, even if they've also kept you small. When you start introducing new instructions through properly constructed affirmations, there's often a period of dissonance. Your conscious mind is saying one thing, your subconscious is running the old program. And for a while, you're caught between two worlds. This is where most people quit. They feel the discomfort and assume the method isn't working. But this tension, this is actually evidence that it is working. You're not supposed to feel comfortable when you're dismantling years of conditioning. The caterpillar doesn't feel comfortable dissolving in the chrysalis either. The question isn't whether you'll feel this dissonance. The question is whether you'll interpret it correctly. Mark felt it. There were mornings he'd sit down to affirm and his entire being would resist. His mind would flood with counterexamples, past failures, reasons why this wouldn't work for someone like him. But because we prepared him for this, because he understood that resistance is part of the rewiring process, he didn't quit. He kept showing up. Not with grim determination, but with patient persistence. There's a difference. Grim determination is the ego trying to force change. Patient persistence is the soul trusting the process. One exhausts you, the other sustains you. And gradually, something shifted. The affirmations that once felt foreign started to feel familiar. The visualization that once required effort began to flow naturally. The identity he was claiming, successful, capable, worthy of good opportunities, started to feel less like a costume and more like his actual skin. This is when the external world begins to rearrange itself, not because the universe suddenly noticed you, but because you've become a different person, vibrating at a different frequency, taking different actions, noticing different opportunities. You stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop white-knuckling your way through life, trying to force doors open that were never meant for you. Instead, you walk through the world with a quiet knowing, an unshakable certainty that what is yours will find you, not because you're special, not because you've been chosen, but because you've aligned your inner world with the reality you wish to experience. And here's what most people never understand. The universe doesn't reward effort, it rewards alignment. You can work 16 hours a day, hustle until your body breaks, grind yourself into dust, and still end up exactly where you started. Because you're moving from a place of lack, you're operating from fear, your actions are screaming, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, I need to prove my worth. And the universe, ever the faithful mirror, reflects that energy right back to you. But when you shift your inner state first, when you do the work of changing your self-concept, of reprogramming your subconscious mind, of aligning your thoughts and feelings with the version of yourself who already has what you desire, everything changes. The same actions you were taking before suddenly produce different results. The same conversations lead to different outcomes. The same effort yields exponential returns. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's simply the natural consequence of operating from a different frequency. Think about two people applying for the same job, same qualifications, same experience, same resume. One walks into the interview anxious, needy, desperate to be chosen. They're thinking, please pick me. I really need this. I hope I'm good enough. The other walks in calm, confident, already feeling like the person who has the job. They're thinking, let's see if this is the right fit for both of us. I'm here to offer my value and see if this aligns with where I'm going. Who do you think gets the job? Same effort, different energy, different result. This is what self-concept work does. It changes the energy you bring to every interaction, every opportunity, every moment of your life. And here's what most people don't realize. This energy shift doesn't just affect how others respond to you. It changes what you notice, what opportunities you see, what actions feel natural to take. When your self-concept is aligned with the reality you want, you don't have to force yourself to do uncomfortable things. The right actions become effortless because they flow from who you've become internally. Let me share something profound. A woman once told me she wanted to be wealthy, but every time she looked at job postings for higher-paying positions, she felt a knot in her stomach. She would think, those jobs aren't for people like me. Notice that phrase, people like me. That's self-concept speaking. She had created an identity around being someone who struggles financially, someone who works hard but never quite gets ahead. And as long as she wore that identity, every opportunity that didn't match it felt threatening, uncomfortable, wrong. I asked her to do something simple. Stop focusing on the money. Stop visualizing bank accounts or paychecks. Instead, spend time each day feeling into the identity of someone who creates value easily, someone whose talents are recognized and rewarded, someone who expects good things to happen, not because she's special, but because that's just who she is. Just her natural state of being. She resisted at first. But I need to take action, she said. I need to apply for jobs, network, update my resume. And yes, action matters. But action taken from a poverty consciousness just creates more struggle. Action taken from an abundant self-concept opens doors you didn't even know existed. 3 months later, she didn't get one of those jobs she'd been afraid to apply for. Something better happened. A former colleague reached out about a consulting opportunity. The work was in her zone of genius, the pay was double what she'd been making, and it came with flexibility she'd only dreamed about. She didn't chase it. She didn't hustle for it. She had become the kind of person to whom such opportunities naturally flow. This is the power of working from the inside out. This is why chasing success from a state of lack always feels exhausting. You're trying to force reality to bend to your will, rather than aligning your inner world with your desired outcome. It's the difference between rowing upstream and letting the current carry you. Think about the person who wants to attract love but walks through life feeling unlovable. They might go on dating apps, attend social events, dress perfectly, say all the right things. But underneath it all, there's a vibration of "I'm not enough" that other people pick up on subconsciously. And so their external efforts bring minimal results, or they attract relationships that mirror their inner lack. Now contrast that with someone who has done the inner work. They've healed their relationship with themselves, they've cultivated self-love, self-respect, and a genuine sense of wholeness. They're not looking for someone to complete them because they already feel complete. And paradoxically, that's when love shows up effortlessly. They don't need to chase or convince or perform. Their inner state broadcasts a frequency that naturally attracts aligned people. I've witnessed this pattern in every area of life: health, wealth, relationships, career success. The external always reflects the internal. Always. There are no exceptions to this law. And here's where most people get confused. They think changing their inner state means pretending everything is fine when it's not. They think it means toxic positivity or denying reality. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about recognizing that your current external reality is the result of your past inner state, while your future external reality will be the result of your current inner state. This distinction is crucial. You're not denying where you are. You're simply refusing to let where you are dictate where you're going. You're consciously choosing to embody the state of consciousness that corresponds to your desired reality, even before that reality appears in physical form. This is what it means to live from the end. It's not about pretending your problems don't exist. It's about refusing to give them the throne of your consciousness. It's about dethroning the problem and enthroning the solution in your mental kingdom. Think about this carefully. Your subconscious mind is always listening. It's always accepting what you persistently feel and believe. It doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It simply accepts and expresses. So when you consistently dwell in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, when you make that feeling your familiar state, your subconscious accepts it as instruction and begins to reorganize your entire experience to match it. This is why Murphy emphasized feeling over thinking. You can think about wealth all day long, but if the feeling accompanying those thoughts is one of lack, limitation, and desperation, you're giving your subconscious mixed signals. The feeling is the instruction. The feeling is the language your subconscious understands most clearly. So you must ask yourself, what feeling would naturally accompany the fulfillment of my desire? Not the feeling of wanting it, not the feeling of hoping for it, but the feeling of actually having it, right now. That's the feeling you must cultivate. That's the feeling you must make your home. Let me give you a powerful technique Murphy taught for cultivating this feeling. It's beautifully simple, yet profoundly effective. Before you go to sleep at night, when your conscious mind is naturally relaxed and your subconscious is most receptive, enter into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Don't just visualize it like you're watching a movie, actually feel yourself inside the scene. If your desire is health, feel the vitality coursing through your body. If it's a relationship, feel the warmth and joy of companionship. If it's financial abundance, feel the relief and freedom that comes with security. This feeling is not fantasy, it's preparation. It's the language your subconscious understands. Your rational mind deals in words and logic, but your subconscious speaks in emotion and sensation. When you feel as though your prayer is already answered, you're speaking directly to the creative power within you. Now, let me share something that troubles many people on this path. They say, but isn't this denial? Isn't this ignoring reality? And I say to you, which reality? The reality of your current circumstances, which is merely the outpicturing of your past thinking, or the reality of infinite possibility that exists in this present moment? You're not denying facts, you're refusing to give them permanent power. There's a profound difference. When a doctor gives a diagnosis, you don't pretend you didn't hear it, but you also don't accept it as your final destiny. You acknowledge the present condition while simultaneously impressing upon your subconscious the image of perfect health. You're not fighting the condition, you're focused entirely on the solution. This is where so many stumble. They make the mistake of praying against something rather than for something. They say, please take away my debt, focusing entirely on the debt. They say, help me stop being lonely, concentrating on the loneliness. But the subconscious doesn't process negation the way your conscious mind does. When you say, I'm not poor, your subconscious hears and visualizes poor. When you affirm, I'm not sick, it registers sick. Instead, you must pray from the end. State what you desire as though it already is. I am healthy and strong. I am prospered in all my ways. I am surrounded by love and companionship. Feel the truth of these statements. Let them sink deep into your being. And here's what happens when you truly do this. You stop anxious striving. You stop that desperate, clutching energy that actually pushes your good away from you. You begin to move through your day with calm certainty, taking inspired action rather than frantic action. You recognize opportunities that were always there but invisible to your worried mind. Your entire vibration changes, and you begin to attract circumstances and people aligned with your new inner state. This is why Murphy taught that faith is not blind belief, it's the conscious choice to trust the power that created you. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust the intelligence of nature to do its work. Your subconscious mind operates with that same intelligence, far beyond what your conscious mind can comprehend. Think about your own body right now. Your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, your cells are regenerating, all without your conscious effort. You didn't have to learn how to digest food or fight off infections. The intelligence that manages these complex processes is the same intelligence that responds to your mental images and beliefs. Murphy would say that most people pray or affirm once, then spend the rest of their time contradicting that prayer with doubt and fear. It's like taking one step forward and 10 steps back. The subconscious responds to the dominant impression, the habitual thought pattern. If you affirm abundance for 5 minutes but worry about lack for 5 hours, which impression do you think takes root? This is where persistence becomes crucial, not the persistence of struggle, but the persistence of gentle, consistent return to your desired state. Every time a worry surfaces, you acknowledge it without resistance, then gently redirect your attention to your affirmation or mental image. You're not fighting the negative thought, you're simply choosing to give your energy to something else. I've seen people transform their health, relationships, and finances through this practice. Not because they forced anything to happen, but because they changed the inner pattern that was creating their outer experience. One man came to me drowning in debt, convinced he was destined for poverty. We worked together on a simple practice. Every time he thought about his bills, he would pause, take a breath, and visualize himself calmly paying each one with ease and gratitude. At first, it felt completely false to him. His rational mind screamed that this was just wishful thinking, but he committed to the practice anyway. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities began appearing. A former client reached out with a project. He found a forgotten savings bond. Someone offered him freelance work. Within 6 months, his debt was cleared. Now, I want you to notice something crucial about this story. The change didn't begin with money appearing. The change began the moment he stopped fighting his reality and started redirecting his mental energy. When you stop resisting what is and start affirming what can be, you create space for transformation. This is where most people stumble. They want to change their circumstances while simultaneously dwelling on how terrible those circumstances are. They want prosperity while mentally rehearsing poverty. They want health while constantly discussing their symptoms. They want success while telling everyone who'll listen about their failures. You cannot heal a wound by constantly reopening it. You cannot fill a cup that you keep pouring out. And you cannot manifest abundance while mentally living in lack. Your subconscious mind is recording everything. Every word you speak, every thought you think, every image you entertain, it's all being impressed upon that fertile soil. And that soil doesn't judge. It doesn't say, "Oh, you don't really mean that." It accepts everything and begins to bring it forth into your experience. Think about worry for a moment. What is worry but negative goal setting? When you worry, you're vividly imagining what you don't want, feeling the emotions of that unwanted outcome, and impressing those images upon your subconscious mind with emotional intensity. You're essentially praying for what you fear. I knew a woman who worried constantly about losing her job. Every day, she'd imagine the scenario, her boss calling her in, the conversation, how she'd feel, what she'd do. She'd tell her friends about her fears. She'd lie awake rehearsing unemployment. And then, surprisingly to her but predictably to anyone who understands these principles, she was let go during a restructuring. She had spent 6 months programming herself for exactly that outcome. Her subconscious mind simply said yes, as you wish, and arranged circumstances to match her dominant expectation. This is why I'm so emphatic about monitoring your internal dialogue. Your subconscious is always listening, always recording, always creating based on the blueprints you feed it through repetition and emotional intensity. And here's something that might surprise you. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between past, present, and future the way your conscious mind does. When you vividly imagine something with emotional conviction, your subconscious accepts it as real, as happening now. This is why visualization works so powerfully when done correctly. Athletes have known this for decades. Olympic competitors who spend time mentally rehearsing their performance, seeing themselves executing perfectly, feeling the movements, hearing the crowd actually improve their physical performance. Brain scans show that imagining an action activates the same neural pathways as physically performing it. You're literally training your nervous system through imagination. But most people do this accidentally in reverse. They vividly imagine worst-case scenarios. They rehearse failure with perfect clarity and emotional intensity. They lie in bed creating detailed mental movies of everything going wrong. And then they wonder why their life seems to attract exactly those experiences. Your imagination is the workshop of your mind. It's where tomorrow's reality is constructed today. The question isn't whether you're using it, you are constantly. The question is, are you using it deliberately or carelessly? Let me give you a practical framework for conscious creation. It's simple, but don't mistake simple for easy. It requires consistency and awareness. First, become vigilant about the thoughts you're entertaining throughout the day. Don't judge them harshly, just notice them. When you catch yourself in a negative thought pattern, don't fight it or feel guilty about it. Simply acknowledge it. There's that old pattern again. Then, and this is crucial, gently redirect. Choose a thought that moves you toward what you want rather than away from it. If you catch yourself thinking, "I'll never get out of debt," pause and replace it with, "I am discovering new ways to improve my financial situation." Notice I didn't say you have to jump from "I'm broke" to "I'm a millionaire." Your subconscious would reject that as too incongruent with your current reality. But it can accept a thought that implies movement, growth, and possibility. This is about building a bridge from where you are to where you want to be, one thought at a time. Think of your mind like a garden. If you plant seeds of doubt, worry, and limitation, those are the crops you'll harvest. But if you tend to your mental garden, carefully pulling out the weeds of negative thought as soon as they sprout and planting seeds of faith, abundance, and possibility, your outer world will begin to reflect that inner cultivation. Now, here's something most people overlook. The subconscious doesn't just respond to your words. It responds to the emotional charge behind those words. You can say affirmations all day long, but if there's no feeling behind them, they're just empty sounds. It's the combination of thought and emotion that creates the magnetic force that draws your desires into reality. When you say, "I am prosperous," don't just mouth the words. Feel what prosperity would feel like. Imagine the relief, the freedom, the confidence. Let that feeling wash over you. Your subconscious speaks the language of emotion far more fluently than it speaks the language of logic. I once counseled a woman who wanted to attract a loving relationship. She'd repeat affirmations mechanically, but nothing changed. When I asked her to describe how she'd feel in that relationship, something shifted. She closed her eyes and a smile spread across her face. "I'd feel cherished," she said. "I'd feel seen and valued." I told her to focus on cultivating that feeling now, regardless of her relationship status. Within weeks, her entire energy changed. She became more open, more confident. And yes, she did meet someone, but more importantly, she'd already found what she was looking for within herself. This is the secret that changes everything. You don't chase the feeling through the manifestation, you generate the feeling first, and the manifestation follows. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you feel prosperous now, you're programming your subconscious to create conditions that match that prosperity. This is why people who wait to feel good until after they get the money rarely get the money. They've got it backwards. The feeling is the creative force. The money is the effect, not the cause. You must feel wealthy in consciousness before wealth can appear in your experience. I've watched people transform their financial situations completely by making this one shift. They stopped waiting for their bank account to give them permission to feel prosperous. They claimed the feeling first. They walked differently. They spoke differently. They made decisions from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. And here's what's fascinating. When you genuinely feel prosperous, you start noticing opportunities you've been blind to. You start attracting different people and circumstances. Your energy shifts, and the world responds to that shift. This isn't magical thinking. This is how consciousness operates. Let me give you a practical example. There's a difference between saying, "I want money," and feeling prosperous. Wanting implies lack. Wanting means you don't have it, and that feeling of lack is what you're actually impressing on your subconscious. But when you feel prosperous now, in this moment, you're impressing abundance. You're living from the end result. Your subconscious mind accepts the dominant feeling as fact. It doesn't argue with you. It doesn't judge whether you deserve prosperity. It simply accepts what you consistently feel and believe, then works to create conditions in your outer world that match your inner conviction. This is why gratitude is so powerful in the manifestation process. When you feel genuinely grateful for what you have right now, you're in a state of abundance. Gratitude is incompatible with lack. You cannot feel truly grateful and truly poor at the same time. Gratitude generates the feeling of having, of being blessed, of being provided for. Start each day by feeling grateful for your current good, no matter how small it may seem. Feel grateful for your health, your abilities, your opportunities, the roof over your head, the food you eat. As you cultivate this feeling of gratitude, you're conditioning your subconscious mind to expect good, to recognize abundance, to attract more reasons to be grateful. This practice of gratitude becomes a powerful magnet that draws even greater blessings into your experience. You're not just appreciating what is, you're opening the door to what will be. Your subconscious mind responds to the vibration of thankfulness by creating more experiences that match that frequency. When you wake up feeling grateful, you set the emotional tone for your entire day. You're programming your mental and emotional state before the external world has a chance to impose its conditions upon you. This is proactive living at its finest. You're not waiting for good things to happen so you can feel grateful. You're feeling grateful first, and then watching as good things naturally flow toward you. Now, let me share with you something that often gets overlooked in discussions about the subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't just respond to your thoughts and feelings, it also responds to the images you consistently hold in your mind's eye. Visualization isn't just some new age practice. It's a scientifically sound principle based on how your brain processes information. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you close your eyes and imagine yourself succeeding, your subconscious accepts that image as instruction. When you picture yourself healthy and vibrant, your subconscious begins organizing your body's resources toward that outcome. When you visualize yourself living in abundance, your subconscious starts identifying opportunities that match that vision. This is why athletes spend hours visualizing perfect performance. This is why successful business people imagine their presentations going flawlessly before they step into the boardroom. They understand that the subconscious mind is preparing the pathway for their success before they even take physical action. But here's the critical element most people miss. The visualization must be accompanied by feeling. You can't just mechanically picture something and expect results. You must feel yourself in that desired state. Feel the joy of the achievement. Feel the relief of the healing. Feel the freedom of the abundance. The emotional component is what gives your mental image the power to impress your subconscious mind. Spend time each day, perhaps just before sleep or immediately upon waking, creating these mental movies of your ideal life. Your subconscious mind is most receptive during these threshold states, when the conscious mind is quiet and the doorway to the inner realm stands open. In these sacred moments, you bypass the critical, analytical mind and speak directly to the feeling nature within you. Now, here's something many people miss entirely. They create the vision, they feel the feelings, but then they walk away and immediately contradict everything they just impressed upon their subconscious. They visualize abundance, then spend the rest of their day complaining about bills. They imagine perfect health, then talk endlessly about their symptoms. They see themselves successful, then engage in conversations filled with doubt and limitation. This is like planting a seed in the garden, then immediately digging it up to see if it's growing. You must protect your vision. You must guard your mental garden against the weeds of negative thought and contradictory speech. This doesn't mean you ignore practical matters or live in denial. It means you refuse to give power to conditions that contradict your desired outcome. When negative thoughts arise, and they will, don't fight them. Fighting them only gives them more energy. Instead, gently redirect your attention back to your vision. Replace the negative image with the positive one. Replace the feeling of lack with the feeling of fulfillment. This is a gentle, persistent practice, not a violent struggle. Think of it like training a puppy. When the puppy wanders off, you don't beat it. You simply guide it back to where you want it to be. Your mind is the same. Be patient with yourself, but be persistent. Each time you redirect your thoughts toward your vision, you strengthen the neural pathways of possibility. You make it easier for your mind to naturally rest in the state of your fulfilled desire. Another crucial element is gratitude. When you give thanks for your good before it appears in physical form, you are affirming that it already exists in the invisible realm of mind. You are acknowledging that the mental equivalent you've created is real, is powerful, and is already manifesting. Gratitude elevates your emotional frequency and aligns you with the receiving mode. This practice of gratitude in advance is not wishful thinking, it's an acknowledgement of spiritual law. When a farmer plants a seed, he doesn't wait until the harvest to feel grateful. He thanks the soil, the sun, and the rain, because he knows the law of growth is already at work. He trusts the process. You must do the same with your mental seeds. Every night before sleep, take a moment to give thanks for the manifestation of your desire. Say with feeling, I give thanks that my desire is now fulfilled in divine order. Feel the relief, the joy, the satisfaction of having already received. This emotional gratitude impresses your subconscious even more deeply and accelerates the manifestation process. Many people sabotage their own prayers by mixing gratitude with doubt. They say, thank you for my healing, but then immediately wonder, will it really happen? This vacillation cancels out the positive impression. Gratitude must be pure, unwavering, and final. It is the seal on your prayer, the signature that says, it is done. Now, let me address a question that often arises. What if my desire doesn't seem to be manifesting? What if I've been visualizing, affirming, and feeling, yet nothing has changed in my outer world? This is where patience and faith are tested. Remember, there is always a time lag between the mental planting and the physical harvest. You cannot plant a seed today and expect fruit tomorrow. The law is working, even when you cannot see it. During this waiting period, your task is not to force, worry, or manipulate. Your task is to remain faithful to your inner vision. Continue to live from the end. Continue to think, feel, and act as though your desire is already yours. Any anxiety or impatience is a sign that you are still identifying with the lack rather than the fulfillment. Joseph Murphy taught that the subconscious mind accepts your dominant mental attitude. If you are occasionally hopeful but predominantly doubtful, doubt will prevail. The key is to reach a place of settled conviction where the mental image is no longer something you are trying to achieve, but something you already possess in consciousness. This is what Murphy called praying from the answer rather than praying for the answer. When you pray for something, you affirm its absence. When you pray from the answer, You give thanks for its presence. I once worked with a woman who desperately wanted to heal a fractured relationship with her daughter. For months, she visualized reconciliation, but always with a sense of striving, of hoping it would happen someday. The turning point came when she shifted her mental state. Instead of hoping for reconciliation, she began to feel it as already accomplished. She imagined conversations with her daughter not as future possibilities, but as present realities. She felt the warmth of her daughter's embrace, heard her laughter, sensed the ease between them. Within weeks, her daughter reached out unexpectedly, and the relationship began to mend naturally. This is the power of dwelling in the wish fulfilled. You are not manipulating external circumstances. You are aligning your consciousness with the reality you desire, and the outer world must reflect that inner alignment. Murphy emphasized repeatedly that your subconscious mind is impersonal. It does not judge whether your mental images are good or bad, possible or impossible. It simply accepts what you impress upon it with feeling and conviction. Therefore, examine your mental diet carefully. What are you feeding your subconscious throughout the day? Are you nourishing it with images of success, health, and abundance? Or are you contaminating it with worry, doubt, and fear? Every thought is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Be intentional about what you plant, because you will inevitably harvest what you sow. Now, let me ask you something that might shake you awake. How many times have you sabotaged your own prayers? How many times have you asked for something with your lips, while your mind was busy constructing elaborate scenarios of failure? You pray for financial abundance, and then you immediately think, but the economy is terrible, but I don't have the right education, but people like me never get ahead. You're praying and cursing in the same breath. You're building with one hand and tearing down with the other. This is why so many people give up on the power of the subconscious mind. They try it once, half-heartedly, while drowning in doubt, and when nothing happens they say, "See, I knew it wouldn't work," but they never really gave it a chance. They never truly impressed their desire upon their subconscious with conviction and feeling. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to your casual wishes. It responds to your dominant mental attitude. It responds to what you consistently feel and believe. You can't think poverty and lack all day long and then expect 5 minutes of weak affirmation to override it. That's like trying to heat a house with a match while leaving all the windows open in winter. The secret is persistence combined with feeling. Not blind repetition like a robot, but conscious, feeling-toned repetition. When you affirm, "I am prosperous," don't just mouth the words. Feel the relief of financial freedom. Feel the confidence of security. Feel the joy of being able to help others. Saturate the words with emotion, because emotion is the language your subconscious understands. And here's what most people don't realize. You don't need to know how your desire will come to pass. That's not your job. Your job is to define the end result, to feel it as real, to accept it mentally. The how is the domain of your subconscious mind, which has access to infinite intelligence and can orchestrate circumstances in ways your conscious mind could never imagine. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust the process. You trust that nature knows how to turn that seed into a plant. The same trust must be given to your subconscious mind. This is faith in its truest form, not blind belief in external powers, but confidence in the creative mechanism within you. When you truly understand that your subconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence, to the creative power that fashioned galaxies and orchestrates the seasons, how can you doubt its ability to manifest your good? The universe doesn't recognize the difference between large and small. To infinite intelligence, manifesting a parking space requires the same creative principle as manifesting perfect health or financial freedom. The only difference is in your mind, in the limitations you place on what you believe is possible. I've witnessed this truth countless times. A woman came to me once, desperate because her business was failing. She had debt mounting, creditors calling, employees depending on her. She said, "Dr. Murphy, I can believe that God can help me with small things, but this problem seems too big." I asked her a simple question. Is anything too difficult for the infinite intelligence that created you and sustains the universe? She paused. In that moment, she realized that her belief in limitation was the only limitation there was. Within 3 months, her business completely turned around. Not through struggle or force, but through inspired ideas that came to her in meditation, through opportunities that seemed to appear from nowhere, through the natural unfolding of good when the subconscious is properly directed. This is what I want you to understand with absolute clarity. Your subconscious mind doesn't judge your requests. It doesn't say, this desire is too grand, or this goal is beyond your station in life. Those are conscious mind limitations, inherited beliefs from your upbringing, your culture, your past experiences of disappointment. The subconscious simply accepts what you impress upon it and moves heaven and earth to bring it into manifestation. It activates the law of attraction. It heightens your awareness to opportunities you would have otherwise missed. It gives you the courage to act when action is required. It dissolves obstacles that seemed immovable. Think about the great inventors, the pioneering scientists, the visionaries who changed our world. What did they have that you don't? The same subconscious mind, the same access to infinite intelligence. The only difference was their willingness to believe in the invisible before it became visible, to persist in their mental imaging despite external appearances, to trust the creative process completely. Edison failed thousands of times before the light bulb worked, but in his mind, he had never failed once. He was simply discovering what didn't work, always knowing that success was inevitable because he held the vision clearly in his consciousness. This is the difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who abandon them. The achievers don't necessarily have more talent, more resources, or better circumstances. They have a different relationship with their inner vision. They treat it as already real, already done, already accomplished in the invisible realm of consciousness. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. Scientists have proven this with brain scans. When you imagine playing piano, the same neural pathways light up as when you actually play. When you visualize success with emotional intensity, your brain begins rewiring itself to match that reality. This is why athletes spend hours in mental rehearsal. Olympic swimmers visualize every stroke, every turn, every breath before they ever touch the water. They see themselves touching the wall first. They feel the gold medal around their neck. And when race day comes, their body simply follows the blueprint their mind has already created. You can do this with anything. Want to start a business? Don't just think about it abstractly. Close your eyes and see yourself opening the door to your office. Feel the weight of your business card in your hand. Hear customers thanking you for transforming their lives. Smell the coffee brewing in your successful workspace. Make it so real that your subconscious has no choice but to accept it as truth. Want to heal your body? Stop identifying with the illness. Stop saying my arthritis or my anxiety as if these conditions define you. Instead, see yourself moving freely, breathing easily, living vibrantly. Feel the sensation of perfect health coursing through your body. Your subconscious will begin mobilizing healing forces you didn't know you possessed. The vision must be clear, detailed, and emotionally charged. Vague wishes produce vague results. When you say, I want to be successful, your subconscious doesn't know what that means. Success in what? Looking like what? Feeling like what? But when you create a specific, vivid mental picture and saturate it with feeling, you give your subconscious a precise target. Every night before sleep, spend 10 minutes in this creative visualization. Why before sleep? Because as you drift off, your conscious mind loosens its grip and your subconscious becomes incredibly receptive. The last thoughts you hold before sleep sink deep into your subconscious, working on your behalf throughout the night. That's when your subconscious mind goes to work, reorganizing your inner world, reshaping your beliefs, and aligning your entire being with the truth you've declared. Sleep is not a state of inactivity, it's the workshop of transformation. While your body rests, your mind is building. It's constructing the inner foundation for the outer change you desire. This is why people who practice this method often wake up with sudden insights, fresh perspectives, and a quiet confidence they didn't have before. They haven't done anything externally, but internally, everything has shifted. The subconscious doesn't argue, it doesn't resist, it simply accepts what you give it and begins to manifest that in your experience. Now, here's what makes this so powerful. You're not just saying words and hoping for the best. You're engaging in a precise psychological process. You're bypassing the critical, doubting conscious mind and speaking directly to the part of you that controls your habits, your emotions, your automatic reactions, and your perceptions. You're reprogramming yourself at the deepest level. And the beauty of it is this. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. The first few nights, you might feel resistance. Your old beliefs might whisper doubts, your mind might wander. That's normal. But if you persist, if you stay faithful to this practice, something remarkable begins to happen. The new belief starts to feel natural, the affirmation starts to feel true, and your outer world begins to reflect this inner change. You'll notice it in small ways at first. A shift in your mood, a change in how people respond to you, an unexpected opportunity, a solution appearing where there was only confusion before. These aren't coincidences. They're the natural result of your subconscious mind working in harmony with your declared truth. So tonight, before you sleep, choose your declaration carefully. Make it personal, make it present tense, make it positive, and feel it as already real. Don't beg, don't plead. Simply state what is true in the realm of your consciousness, and trust your subconscious to bring it into manifestation. When you approach prayer this way, something shifts inside you. There's a quiet confidence that replaces the anxiety. You're no longer wondering if times it will work. You know it's already done in consciousness, and the physical manifestation is simply catching up. This is the prayer of faith. Not faith that you'll get what you want someday, but faith that you already possess it in the invisible realm of mind. And because your subconscious mind does not argue with you, does not question your assumptions, it accepts this faith as instruction and begins to reorganize your outer world to match it. I've seen people transform their health this way. Instead of praying, "Please heal me, I'm so sick," they affirm, "I am whole, vibrant, and filled with life force. Every cell in my body radiates perfect health." They feel it. They live from that state. And the body, which is always listening to consciousness, begins to respond. I've seen people change their financial circumstances not by begging for money, but by assuming the feeling of financial freedom. They walk differently. They think differently. They no longer carry the energy of lack, and so lack stops showing up in their experience. The key is this: your prayer must produce a change in times you asterisk. If you finish praying and you still feel poor, still feel sick, still feel lonely, then you haven't truly prayed. You've only rehearsed your problems before God. True prayer leaves you feeling different, lighter, more certain, at peace. Because you've made contact with the infinite intelligence within you, and you've planted a seed in fertile soil. Now, let me address something important. Some people hear this teaching and think it means they should deny reality. They think it means pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't. That's not what I'm saying. You don't deny the facts. You deny them times power asterisk. You acknowledge what is, but you refuse to accept it as final. You turn your attention to what you want to experience instead, and you give times your mental and emotional energy. If you're sick, you don't pretend you're not sick. You simply stop identifying with the sickness. You stop saying, "I am sick." Instead you say, "My body is healing. Health is my natural state." You impress health upon your subconscious, and you let it do the work. This is not denial, it's redirection. You're choosing where to place your faith. And your subconscious will always prove your faith to be justified. So tonight, before you sleep, practice this kind of prayer. Don't ask, don't beg, simply claim what is yours by divine right, feel it real, and release it with confidence. Your subconscious is listening. There's something profound about this process that I want you to understand deeply. When you impress your subconscious mind with a desire, you're not begging. You're not pleading with some distant deity. You're activating a law as reliable as gravity. Think about it this way. When you plant a seed in fertile soil, do you dig it up every hour to check if it's growing? Of course not. You trust the process. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you let nature do what nature does. Your subconscious works the same way. I've seen people sabotage their own manifestations by constantly checking, doubting, questioning. Is it working yet? Why hasn't it happened? Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Every doubt is like a new instruction to your subconscious. You're essentially saying, "Cancel that previous order. I don't really believe it. Here's what I want you to do instead." Once you've impressed your desire upon your subconscious through feeling and imagination, let it go. Not with indifference, but with confidence. There's a huge difference. Indifference says, "I don't care anymore." Confidence says, "It is done. I know it's working even if I can't see it yet." This is the waiting period that tests everyone. This is where faith becomes practical. You've planted the seed. Now you go about your life with a quiet knowing. You might not see immediate external changes, but something within you has shifted. You carry yourself differently. You make decisions from the consciousness of already having what you desire. And here's something beautiful that happens during this waiting period. Opportunities begin to appear. A conversation leads to a connection. An idea pops into your mind out of nowhere. A door opens that you didn't even know existed. These aren't coincidences. These are your subconscious mind, working through the infinite intelligence of the universe, orchestrating circumstances to match your inner conviction. I remember a woman who came to me years ago. She had been trying to manifest a better living situation for months. She did everything right, visualized, felt the feelings, affirmed with conviction, but nothing seemed to happen. She was ready to give up. I asked her, "In your mind, do you already live in that beautiful home?" She hesitated. "Well, I want to, but..." There it was. That but. That tiny word that contradicts everything that came before it. I stopped her gently. That but is the wall between you and your desire. Every time you say, "I want but," you're speaking from lack. You're acknowledging the absence, not the presence. We worked together that afternoon. I asked her to close her eyes and describe her new home to me as if she was already living in it. At first, she struggled. The words came out tentative, uncertain, but then something shifted. She started describing the morning light coming through her kitchen window, the way her children laughed in the backyard, the feeling of peace when she turned the key in her own front door. Her voice changed. Her entire energy changed. When she opened her eyes, there were tears streaming down her face. "I felt it," she whispered. "For just a moment I really felt it. It was real." "That feeling," I told her, "is more powerful than 1,000 affirmations spoken without conviction. That feeling is the language your subconscious understands." 3 months later, I received a letter from her. Through a series of what she called miraculous coincidences, she had found a rent-to-own opportunity on a home that matched her vision almost exactly. The owner was motivated, the terms were manageable, and the pieces fell into place with an ease that astonished her. But here's what she wrote that struck me most. The strangest thing happened. After our conversation, I stopped feeling desperate about the house. I stopped checking real estate listings obsessively. I felt calm. I felt certain. And that's when everything changed. You see, that calm certainty is the evidence of successful impressing upon your subconscious mind. When you truly believe something is yours, you stop grasping for it. You stop chasing it with anxious energy. Think about something you already possess, your current home, perhaps, or your car. Do you spend your days desperately affirming that you own them? Do you anxiously visualize having them? Of course not. You simply know they're yours. That's the state of consciousness we're cultivating. Not wanting, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing. When you reach this level of conviction, the universe has no choice but to rearrange itself according to your faith. This isn't poetry. This isn't motivational fluff. This is spiritual law operating with mathematical precision. Think about the great figures throughout history who changed the world. Did they hope things might work out? Did they wish upon stars and cross their fingers? No. They moved with an inner certainty that what they envisioned was already established in the invisible realm, waiting only for time to reveal it. You have that same power within you right now. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. Scientists have proven this repeatedly. When you visualize yourself succeeding, your brain fires the same neural pathways as if you were actually experiencing that success. When you feel the emotion of your wish fulfilled, your body releases the same chemistry as if the event had physically occurred. This is why mental rehearsal works for athletes. This is why visualization techniques transform lives. This is why those who practice feeling their desires as already accomplished become magnetic to their fulfillment. But here's what most people miss. The feeling must be natural, not forced. It must be assumed, not manufactured. There's a difference between trying to feel wealthy and actually feeling wealthy. One reeks of lack and desperation. The other emanates from a quiet inner knowing. When you truly accept something as done, you relax. The anxiety disappears. The obsessive checking and worrying stops. You move through your day with a calm assurance the way you feel calm about the sun rising tomorrow. You don't wake up anxious, hoping the sun might possibly rise if you're lucky. You know it will. You assume it. You take it as a given. This is the state you must cultivate regarding your desire. I'm not saying you'll never have moments of doubt. You're human. The doubts will come, but when they do, you gently redirect your attention back to the truth, back to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, back to the knowing that it is already done in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. You do this as many times as necessary until the new assumption becomes habitual, until it becomes your natural state, until you forget you ever believed anything different. And then, sometimes when you least expect it, you'll look around and realize your entire world has shifted. What you once imagined has become the obvious reality surrounding you. And you'll understand, perhaps for the first time, that you were never manipulating external circumstances. You were simply aligning with a reality that already existed in the infinite potential of consciousness. This is the promise. This is the truth. This is your inheritance as a spiritual being, and you have waited long enough. You have doubted long enough. You have deferred your dreams long enough. You have placed conditions on your worthiness long enough. Today, right now, in this very moment, you can choose differently. You can choose to accept that the creative power that spoke worlds into existence lives within you. You can choose to believe that the intelligence that coordinates billions of cells in your body without your conscious effort can also coordinate the events and circumstances necessary for your success. You can choose faith over fear. This doesn't mean you ignore practical action. Faith without works is indeed incomplete. But when your inner conviction aligns with inspired action, you become unstoppable. The universe doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your conviction. When you approach life from a state of lack, saying, I need, you perpetuate the very lack you're trying to escape. But when you approach life from a state of completion, recognizing that the kingdom of heaven is within you right now, everything shifts. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start allowing. You stop demanding and start receiving. This is not passivity. This is power. This is understanding that you are the operant power in your world, and that your consciousness is the only reality. There is no power outside of you that can prevent your good unless you accept that belief. There is no person, no circumstance, no past failure that can block your demonstration of abundance, health, love, or success, unless you give it that power through your belief. Your belief is the gateway. Your feeling is the creative force. Your persistence in the assumption is the guarantee. Right now, as you hear these words, something within you is shifting. A recognition is dawning. A remembrance is occurring. You are remembering who you truly are. Not the limited, fearful, struggling person you sometimes pretend to be, but the magnificent, powerful, creative being you have always been. The subconscious mind that has brought you to this moment, that has orchestrated every experience for your growth, is ready now to accept a new instruction, a new vision, a new command. And that command is simple. I am. Whatever you attach to those two words becomes your reality. So choose wisely. Choose boldly. Choose from your highest vision of yourself.